game of life and the hero's journey we all experience. Let's jump in with our host, Dylan Watkins, as he introduces today's guest.
Are you into LitRPG as much as I am? Well, on this podcast today, I have TJ Reynolds. Like many LitRPG authors, TJ turned into the genre as a way to feed his gaming addiction while pretending to be an adult. Adulting, not just for kids anymore. His latest project is First Fist, the seventh bridge to the heavens. And without any further delay, I'd like to welcome TJ Reynolds. Hey, brother. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man, you really hit the point when we talked about that. When you talked about going from the thing of feeding your gaming addiction while pretending to be an adult. I've often noticed with like LitRPG books and things like this, there's kind of like this voyeuristic Twitch gaming, over the side seat, peanut gallery, watching the person inside the video game do something epic. And I feel like that's like this whole genre. Can you talk to me just a little bit about just kind of like what are your thoughts around the gaming addiction side while pretending to be an adult?
Yeah, that's it's just, like a guilty confession, I remember when I was trying to write my first one, I was doing Eternal Online, and at the time I was playing World of Warcraft, simultaneously. And I ditched WoW for a little while because I was more excited about what was going to happen in the next chapter. Because for the first time, I like turned off the expectation and the pressure of writing a book. And I was like, oh my God, I'm playing a game and I'm about to level up, or like, ooh, I found loot. And I'm like, what's it going to be? so that's where it gets real rich,
Oh, that's so cool, man. So then, yeah, so you got sucked into your own fantasy. So you literally were able to create it. And then you felt like you're playing your own video game. Is it hard to switch between being the person that plans and the person that adventures? Because like part of it is like you have to create kind of this narrative construct of what's going on, and the other ones you kind of got to step into the slipstream and kind of flow through it. Is it difficult to like kind of?
It is. I've always struggled too, just even passively watching narrative. I tend to want to like make decisions, and I'm like, dude, you're at a movie. You can't change anything here, right? The movie's already been written. So I want to change the things that have, but then when it comes to my own writing, I get frustrated because the story's written and I can't type fast enough. So the sentences sometimes get in the way and I have to slow down and be like, dude, be in the moment. We're on chapter 13. I know the climax is exciting, but we can't get there yet,
Is it there when you say it's already been written? Is it when you say is it written in your head? Is it something on paper? Okay.
No, 100%. It just sort of I've got like some really cool strengths as an author and some really big weaknesses. So like I visualize things. So I feel like I have a cinematic experience when I'm rocking a book, but like I can't read faster than I speak. It just sort of slows down. So I can't like revise my book line by line unless I want to spend 2 years. So I'll do major revisions and do a couple drafts and everything, but I just really can't dip in like some authors can because it's too slow.
Mm-hmm. So strengths and weaknesses. So you said one of the strengths is visualization. So is that a part of your process on the daily, or do you like sit and meditate under a tree for 40 days and 40 nights, or how does that all work?
Nothing magical. It's just the way that I think. So like when I'm writing, it's just visual. I feel like I'm watching a movie kind of. And then it gets frustrating because I'm like, dude, I'm literally still just they're all in slow motion because I can't write faster.
So then when you're visualizing the experience, you're almost like you are someone that's documenting your own mental experience. And so you're kind of sitting there kind of like just taking notes and go, okay, I see what's happening. The guy goes and slays the dragon, and that kind of experience. Is that what you're thinking? It's more passenger.
100%. Yeah. That's why I really get into the fight scenes and the choreography because I try to see the moves as they happen.
Did you have to do any type of research, or do you have any type of background in the fighting and the communication? I saw some comments about like really nailing like the militaristic side and wondering if you had like a military background.
Yeah. I started in the Army like right after high school. Probably was a bit of a mistake just because some of my reasons for joining were a little suspect, but no resentment and no regrets because it made me who I am. But I just tried to show like some of the benefits and cool parts of the military, which is we get to see the camaraderie a little bit come alive and like the structure and support if you're a part of a cog, then you don't need to be worried about being abandoned because you're in a machine. Trust me, they're going to keep you well oiled, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, cogs wear down. So the character we meet is kind of at the end. And then, of course, he discovers like a cool cultivation, magical way of, extending his life and recovering and gaining power and all that. But that's where the fantasy takes over.
Yeah, the epicness. I'm sure that a lot of soldiers wish they had superpowers and the abilities to do things that was
Like even the power to heal. Like my back hurts, and you're like, "Hang on, let me meditate. Let me meditate, and it'll go away." And I'm like, "No, actually, my L4, L5 are gone. They're still messed up, man. They're not coming back from meditation, but that's okay.
Yeah,
that's why I write books."
Yeah, you got to consolidate the power through meditation. I mean, part of it's, there are supposedly the people that can do that in this world, but not to the fantasy aspect that you see, right? And so, and one thing you're talking about too, I think is right, is like there's a lot of negativity around military, right? And there's a lot of negative that can be, right? But at the same time, there's this whole camaraderie, like putting yourself at the edge of like life's experiences, and also being part of a brotherhood. Could be a sisterhood as well, but being a part of something where you yes, what the powers that be maybe do things that you don't approve of or whatever it might be, but more so just looking at that slice of what you're talking about, the brotherhood and the camaraderie and the feeling needed, and also feeling that you have missions, you have goals, you have purposes, right? Do you have like personal experiences or anything that comes to mind from your time in the Army that kind of gave you that sense of brotherhood or connection, or anything specific that you can share?
100%. Yeah. And First Fist, I kind of like go into that and then bleed over into kind of the limitations of that. And so my own experiences, I try to just reflect that as accurately as possible. So some readers are probably not going to enjoy it because I start very much with the brotherly love thing, and the connection, the camaraderie, and there's truth in that. But then I've lost friends, and so then that breaks, right? And then the weird thing is when someone gets out of the service, I left. I finished my contract and I left. And then they're gone, and it's super weird. It's a total mind thing. And so he does that, and the thing, he gets discharged, and a little more, he becomes an exile or whatever, but it's a very short passage. But you see sort of the limitations of the camaraderie because it's everything, and they're always going to be with you. But sadly, you can't actually stay in the unit your whole life, someone's going to die, and another person's going to go get married, and another person's going to go a lifetime. And they're all good choices. So sorry if that was
no, it's beautiful, it's awesome, it's real. It's also like it's everything that we do, like everything that we create, the books that we write, right? It's all about creating feelings, right? You're creating feelings, and that feelings are pulled from you feeling something else, right? And whether it's not maybe this mythical fantasy piece of it, but there's these moments in time that it feels like it can go on forever, whether you're part of a Al Bundy football team where you scored 4 touchdowns in one game, or you're inside the Army, whatever it might be. There's these moments where there's a collection of people that are all striving towards something that I think is beautiful. And that whole juxtaposition that you're talking about, where it's like, this is my reality, right? Then all of a sudden you left that reality and you go, oh, now what? Like, now what do I do? How do I pick up these pieces? And what does it look like? And that's superhuman, not superhuman. That's very human to have an experience. And I think that's some of those emotions that people want to feel. Like, for you, has there been moments inside of writing the book series that you got choked up, or you felt for the character, or was there something was there a situation, without any spoilers, of course, that you personally paused because you felt for the character?
Yeah, 100%, man. And it's not like it's unfortunately common. I tend to really go there with the emotion stuff. Some readers don't appreciate it, but if you do want like character arc and growth and like challenge, emotional challenge, not just like the power fantasy ride, I do think you'll dig my books because I I cry every time I write a book. Even the cheesy ones, I've got some other, other pen names and projects that I'm like, dude, I want to write something that's easier that I can flow through, right?
Mhm.
I still want to go for authentic connection and authentic loss, and then it hits, and then I'm crying at my own keyboard, and it's honestly probably one of the best reasons to keep writing by itself, because it feels so real and alive.
That's awesome. And so it's not the same thing, but when it comes to me, it's almost like a form of therapy, like a form of like therapy or like emotional expression.
100%, 100%. Have you heard of On Tolkien or Tolkien's? It's either On Recovery or Recovery's in the title. Tolkien wrote essays too, and
No.
one was the nature of fantasy as a necessary mental escape to alleviate like mental fatigue. And he had PTSD. The dude was at the Battle of the Somme. There's like 35,000 people dead on day one, and Tolkien was there. And then like Lord of the Rings, right? We've got the Nazgul, mustard
Yeah.
gas, right? We've got the ring wraiths, which like SS guards. There's lots of like, there's just so much inspiration, not like directly, but the tone and the theme and the
Oh,
stakes.
wow.
The stakes were huge.
Wow. That's powerful. And it's also it's something that you can tell like that it's almost that emotional reshaping of the experience and kind of almost like by being able to retell it in a way that's in your own world, you kind of then not only do you get the therapy from being able to get it out of you, but you also be able to shape it in the way that you want, and also in a way of having that impact and other people feeling that. There's something about not feeling alone in the
Yeah,
experience you have.
100%. You can invite another in. You've either taken therapy or you've done trauma research. You're lying to me, man. That one I did a deep dive in college after the Army because I
Yeah.
was trying to heal some stuff, right? And
Yeah.
like that is true. Rewriting the narrative in your own favor.
Mhm.
That's the nature of fantasy, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
if the princess can come back alive and the dragon becomes her best friend
Yeah.
or her lover, depending on what you want for your
Or
family.
both. Hey.
There we are.
Yeah, I know. Like,
Welcome to Kindle Unlimited.
I know this is going to be a hentai fantasy we're going to be going into now. No, I mean, it's just these things are fascinating to me. In the areas of, I mean, we learn through either doing, experiencing, or we learn through stories. And stories is nothing but information plus emotional intensity, right? And that sticks, right? And that's the way that we're doing it. I've never thought about it from a perspective of someone writing as a way to get their experiences out that they've had in as a process to kind of, but also sharing it in that format. I didn't know about Tolkien. I didn't know about that, but that makes a lot of sense to me as a way to a reason to start writing. Like for you and your reason of start writing, can you just talk to me just a little bit about the origins of kicking off your writing career and kind of what was the meaning behind that?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's a little cheesy, but it's mostly the same thing. I mean, I have always wanted to be some sort of storyteller or creator or an actor or all of them.
Yeah.
I think writing gives me the least anxiety, and I'm the most in control. So it felt possible, and I was like, this is safe enough. I can rock this. But then I went to college, which is actually pretty bad for your writing career. I got so much shit advice, man. It was like literally trad pub is evil and you can't make it even there, and self pub isn't real. And I'm like, but there's no jobs as a writer. I can't. And they're like, no, sorry, basically. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'll become a teacher and then I'll figure out a hack to become a writer later. So that became my plan. So I had to become a writer first or a teacher first. And then once I finally got there, once I started believing in myself a little bit more, I started pushing out. So I did poetry and creative nonfiction first. So you can find, if you search under TJ Reynolds, there's some more stuff, and that's all creative nonfiction. So it's stuff that happened from my time in Iraq. Those were like a mixture of pure therapy and me needing to show the world how disgusting things can be. Like I needed to be like, look, guys, like let's not forget this nasty shit. And then I was reading so much LitRPG and fiction that one day I was like, man, I need to stop being intimidated. This seems really fun. And I threw off some shackles and I dove in.
Yeah.
So. That was pretty fun. But for me, it was shedding fear. That's what I needed to do to start. But I've been wanting it for a long time.
And the shedding fear, was it those progressive steps from just communicating what you've experienced and being like, hey, nobody knows about how gross humans can be, or the dark side of humanity, and then kind of once you got that stuff out, then you kind of look towards, well, what else can I do with this tool? Is that kind of the process?
A little bit, and a lot of it's like verification or validation, excuse me. So like, I just did want someone to look at my work and say, hey, this isn't so bad, or hey, you've got potential. And then, you get published little things here and there when these, like the route to poetry, I was doing really good, which means I made like $280 over like 13 competitions. They're all tiny. That means like, and no one's ever seen my stuff because they were printed in like tiny things and handed out at events across America. But each one was a validation. And I was like, you know what? Someone read it and that was good. And I still felt, I think novelist was too fancy in my head and it scared me. I was like, no, I'm not a novelist yet. It's just all self-esteem stuff. And then I was like, fuck that. I can write a novel. And I started. So
what was the moment that you felt like a novelist? Did it happen right when you wrote your first book, or can you talk to me about that?
I still usually don't, but
how many books have you written?
Between my two pen names, over 20. And it still feels a little, yeah, I know, but it's true. But there was a point where I started relaxing into it, and it's a weird mixture of the success and failure. You need to experience a little both. And I think then you're like, yeah, okay. Like, have you been one-starred hard? Has it made you cry yet? I like really pull out the incels. You should read my reviews. The incels fucking hate me, man. They really do. Beta cuck, they triple up with the incel words, and I'm like, oh, someone got triggered.
Oh, there's some heat there, man.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you want to talk about one of the things that stops people from really experiencing life and the whatever creative calling that they have. Like, the quote is so trite, but it's like, many people go to the graves with a song unsung, living lives of quiet desperation, all that jazz.
Yeah.
That the fear of the one star, I would say, because right when you said that to me, I was just like, ooh, I don't know, like I'm about to go live with one of my because I make games, VR games. I'm about to go live with one of those things. I'm just like, and they're going to be at that point, they're going to be able to leave reviews. I'm just like,
it is tough.
It's tough, man. But let me ask you though, is it worth it for you?
Yeah, it is a little close. I'm going through a thing right now where I'm learning to find balance and do self-care because it's so much stress that I need to keep balance. It's been tough. And ironically, a couple of my last series and my attempts have done better than before, and the success terrifies me more than anything else. So I'm like, oh shit, just gotta breathe through it.
Can you say more about why the success, or what about the success terrifies you?
Well, it's a mixture of kind of still not quite feeling like maybe I deserve it, or if there's the fear that maybe it will suddenly end. But I think it's also the attention. It feels like people are staring at my nutsack, man. It's pretty, it's like you said, I'm waiting for the one star.
Yeah.
Always now. And that's okay. But it's just the more attention you get, the harder that gets. I kind of feel like shrinking away and hiding most days.
Yeah. Well, let's look at that, because a lot of people say, oh, if you're gonna go and write, you're gonna go and do, you're gonna make something. It's like, you just gotta believe it. You gotta say, I'm a writer. Then you just go and create. But what about you? Even though you have the anxiety, even though you've got these other things going on, even though you shrink away, what gets you to continue on? What's the motivation?
Probably the deepest part is there's that thing. All art's the same, right? I don't know. You're an artist, you're a creative. You can see how there's connections between mediums. They're driven by the same thing. So for me, it's just, there's like an element of truth in creating. You can create a true novel that's completely fantasy. Speaking of one stars, the one that I got for First Fist was something like, so many made up names. None of this is real. and they were very upset that they read fantasy. I think they were disturbed that they had read fantasy. But for me, it's like there's truth in fantasy, and I find like the motivation to keep living in writing. So worst case, I would probably stop publishing but keep writing. or like just like wait like a year before I publish anything. Just like delay it.
Yeah.
Let it cool off a little,
Yeah.
But I'm not going to stop writing. No.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting you're talking about that is they're upset that they're reading fantasy, even though, I mean, LitRPG is a fantasy game-based genre.
Yeah.
And it is true, because you're right. Like, it's like missing the point. It's like, you're right. It is. This is all fantasy, but the truth lies in like what you're trying to give people. Do you intentionally, like, can you talk to me just a little bit about your process here of like, do you start with the end in mind and work backwards? Do you make an outline? Like how do you go from no idea to a completed book? Like what is that like high level ... for you?
Well, there are some deviations, but like the standard process is I used to do more pantsing, I guess. I still would do pantsing is like when you do inspiration writing or whatever, and that's sort of fun. Plotting is, being more meticulous, and I still plotted everything out and outlined and did some world building before. But the more I write each story, I spend more and more time getting ready, because it's so much easier to write once you do. Because either that or you just have to stop and keep filling it in. You're like, yeah, I forgot that, I forgot that, I forgot that. So now I'm much more meticulous, but the idea is weird. So sometimes it's, while you're in the shower or at the movies, or you go for a walk without your phone. Yeah, you'll have great ideas, but you just won't be able to write them down. And that's the whole point. It's like you're free from I don't know. So the idea will spark. And then sometimes it's like months or even a couple of years until I get to pursue that particular idea. So, and it'll be like a concept or like a class, or like, what would it be like if the world had this thing about it? And then I try and flesh it out from there.
Got it. So like you had some sort of idea, like, what would the world look like with, if everyone was a Jigglypuff or whatever. Right.
Sure.
So if that's the concept, then how do you take it? Okay. That's the core concept. Then you said, okay, so originally seat of your pants, just going out the gate way, but then you realize you kind of type yourself, or, write yourself into a hole. And you got to figure out, oh crap, I got to go back and fix this. So then now you're talking about you do more prep work. What does prep work look like for you?
Yeah, and I do think I've always done the prep work. It was just like 10% of what I do now, but I start with different aspects of world building. So on First Fist, I did want a deep world because I was going for epic fantasy kind of inspired, and it's cultivation, which
It's deep world.
I'm sorry.
What's deep world?
Oh, it's a deep world. Like
okay.
I wanted idioms. I wanted cuss words. I wanted gods. I wrote out like a pantheon of the world, but from 3 different perspectives. So they disagree with each other, which is more accurate. So I wanted that depth. So we're going to get cultural conflicts. Things. So First Fist, I did like 2 or 3 months of world building before I even started, because I was playing with it for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, but I was writing something else during at least half of that.
Oh, that's cool. So then you're talking, when I just didn't understand the term. You're saying deep world is you create a lot of the lore, a lot of the backstory, a lot of, deep world meaning the fact that it was richness, it had depth, it had people that were living in and experiencing it from a bunch of different from, and I don't know how you wrote it, but from a common plebe to a god to a a villain, and kind of looked at the different elements and saw how they all kind of intertwined and how they related with each other, kind of like a web of
yeah, but deep world isn't a term. I just meant it's a world that's deep.
Okay.
World building is a part of like Brandon Sanderson's one of the masters, right? Or Tolkien himself, where he create a language, then that's part of the world, right? It's not part of the story at all, but it's so
that's
it's
crazy.
I had 15,000 words of appendix for this one, just to catch up my readers on part of my world building. Just because I don't know, I thought it would be fun. I don't know, it's a little extra juice on the end of the book if you need more.
Is it? Do you use like just like a Word doc, or do you use things like that World Anvil thing, or like what do you use?
I've considered World Anvil, but I use Scrivener. It's not as cool as I want. I think World Anvil would be great, but I have to pay for it not to be public. I don't know. But Scrivener, I can split screen and get the documents, it just basically takes a Word document and you can fragment it and sort it by tabs. So Scrivener visually organizes my many, many documents.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I haven't looked into Scrivener at all, but that sounds like there's
It's
a thing
not bad.
called, yeah, I'll take a look at it. It sounds like a thing called Rome Notes but I'll look into that. I'm curious. Because it's a lot of, with these whole worlds, being able to keep track of it and locate everything's great, especially because when your book does get an audience, they will call out your bullshit. Like they will do it, and it will do it. Do you have an experience that comes to mind when I mention that?
Yeah, for sure. Thankfully, mostly it's beta readers that catch it, but I've had elements of my system slip, or just like common math issues that went past me, my editor, and the proofreader, and 2 beta readers, and then someone's like, "Hey, man, what's wrong with you knuckleheads?" And we're like, "Oh man, literally, you just smoked all 5 of us," It's embarrassing, and for me, it's really tough. If I didn't have beta readers in LitRPG, I couldn't publish, because the systems. I think I have a creative mind for coming up with a system concept, but I don't have the rigorous discipline and logic of like a system builder. So I make a lot of errors, and I have to like, dude, what do you think of my system? And it goes back and forth before I even start writing sometimes, because I'm not naturally gifted at that. Yeah. Where I'll be like, I'll make a sick concept and then totally break my own rules. And I'm like, damn it, I forgot while I was writing.
Yeah. You need to insert a new feature or power to compensate for that.
That's where revision comes in, right?
Yeah. Well, how does one become a beta reader? Either for you or just in general?
Usually, I think for most authors, it's become a fan. If you're going after if you want to become Brandon Sanderson's beta reader, good luck. I don't think you can do that anymore. Maybe become one of his students or something. But for most of the time, just reach out to your favorite author and be like, hey, man, are you looking for beta readers or ARC readers? Depending on their needs, most likely they'll be able to like hook you up. But you can't. It's not just for a free book. Awesome beta readers are curious and they want to like dig in and almost even help with you a little bit. Like, hey, this was a cool spell, but what's up with this one? You could have been way cooler. And you're like, yeah, you're right. Let's spiff it up.
Yeah. So. It's valuable. There's a natural, like when someone is a fan of yours, there's a natural curiosity where they just want to voraciously consume all of your content, which I do feel a little bad for the authors. Like with you guys, like put months into making a book, and then someone like me is all hungry and I just eat it with an audiobook in 2 days, and I just go, where's the next book? Come on, man.
Do you speed up your audiobooks yet?
Oh, I'm redonkulously. Yeah. I speed up my audiobooks by about two times or so, plus or minus.
You're crazy. Some people can absorb it and it doesn't sound weird, right? Or you can get used to it.
Oh, I'm a freak of nature. Like what I'll do, like with like certain authors that I'm obsessed with, some authors they don't have the audiobook yet, but they have their online books that are like the chapters online. I'll just copy that and bring it into a speech reading AI, and I'll just save the chapters and I'll just have it read it to me, and I'll just sit there and just eat it, but it just gets, I'll get obsessed with. That's why I have to be very careful with getting into a new series. That's why when I saw your latest book, I was like 27 hours. I'm like, I can open this up, but I'm not going to put it down. And then my whole team's going to get mad at me because I'll put off all my work I'm supposed to be doing just to like sit there and consume. And then it'll just get really obsessive. So I have to manage the addiction on this side.
Your ADHD, your dopamine rush.
Must eat it. I'm like, nom, 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 nom. I'm like a gluttonous kid just eating books, shoving it into my mouth, or I guess into my ear hole, Yeah. But what's fascinating about that, and that's why I was curious on the whole beta reading things, is that I'm sure there's people that are like ravenous or can be ravenous with the content that you create, which at the same time is, do you feel like you have to have with your readers, do you have to have a wall up with them, or do you feel like you have to keep it professional, or do you become friends with them, or what's your relationship with your audience?
I think it's pretty casual and pretty friendly, mostly because the LitRPG community itself tends to be that way, especially between like surprisingly big authors and then just a random nobody sometimes. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm not one of the massive ones yet. See, I'm hoping.
There you go.
But I have like recently, I felt super sad. But this dude popped into my Discord PMs and was a fan of First Fist, and I'm like, cool, we're chatting. And then I heard that I found out he was 3 years older than my son or something. And I was like, okay, so you're a minor? And he's like, I am. And I said, I'm so sorry, sir, but I do not feel comfortable, blah, blah, blah. And I did the thing. And I said, like, we can speak in public spaces, but this is my PM and I'm not going to get sued. So I even screenshotted me like saying, I'm so sorry. And I was super nice because he was a sweet guy. And I think he felt like a sting of rejection. I'm like, no, that's not what it is. But that's the part that you got to be careful with, I think.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, everybody doesn't want to get rejected, and he's put himself out there, and to him, you're a big author. Like anybody that you love someone's content, and then you have a conversation with them, there's a bit of surrealness, right? And then they tell you to do that, and so I could absolutely imagine that kid just going stupid, whatever, beat himself. I watched this. Man, I felt so bad for this cat. I watched a guy. I put together like these events where they go and they pitch their ideas to their investors, and there's like this big investor guy, and this guy came in with an idea, and this guy said he spoke out of turn, and this investor is a high level dude, just like shot him down hard, and it was in front of a whole hundreds of people, and I was managing the whole thing, and I watched, and the guy tried to pipe up and defend himself, but it was like not the right move to do, and this guy's like world class high level investor. He's like because the guy basically he shit on other people's work to put himself up. And he's like, and I was like, and I watched it happen, and then afterwards the guy hit me up. He's like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what happened, it spun out of control. And I'm like, it's okay, man, it's okay, people are gonna forget by tomorrow, no one's gonna stress on it. And so anyways, but when you said that, that's what I was imagining, the kid, because he just wants to be your friend. He just wants to get close to your work because he loves what you do. And so I guarantee there's people that you say, I'm not big, but there are people out there that listen to your content that to them, you're huge. And so,
yeah. And I've had a couple phone calls with, I had a phone call with my biggest Patreon.
Oh, cool.
It was pretty nice. Yeah. And it's funny. He's like, I'm a little nervous. And I'm like, dude, I'm nervous. We're definitely just human. So. But yeah, it's so really rewarding too. And it's funny because some of the biggest fans are audiobook fans. They become ravenous for sure. Like truckers have helped me go full time by themselves. Like they buy so many audiobooks.
Oh, that's so cool.
Because they're on the road and they do some of them get really into it. So they'll do 1.5 to 2 times speed. If you do more than 2 times speed, I can't even comprehend the words that fast. You've got a powerful brain, my friend.
I've listened to a lot of audiobooks.
You're not neurodivergent at all, right?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I really like audiobooks though, man, especially lit books. I'll put them down. I just can't stop when I get started. So I mean, it's amazing though, because like you're able to create these worlds where you like our brain, neuroscience wise, right? Like they've done things where they with TV shows, right? That they'll put your brain under an MRI and they'll scan your brain. And for characters that you really like, there is no difference in the brain between that and an actual friend. And so like in a book or inside a fantasy, anything, if that person feels pain, if that person dies, if that person gets hit, if something happens and you have an emotional connection to them, like you were like, that's my friend in trouble. And like, you really, and I think for me, especially when it's spoken, I can only speak in terms of audio, is when someone's actually creating and talking to it. If I feel it feels more real because I start to get, I don't know. I feel like it's more of a human relationship, and I can't really define why. So
no, I totally understand. It feels visceral. You feel it for sure. Especially narrators. Yeah.
Especially what?
Some of the narrators, especially, are just so connective.
Yeah. Are there any of the with you? Do you have personal narrators that you like, that you follow around the narrators because you like who they are, or the content that they create?
Yeah, I think we're kind of spoiled in our genre. Uh, Travis Baldry's definitely been one of my favorite for a long time.
Mm.
I'm going to get to work with him on a project next year. That's pretty exciting.
Oh,
I did the Guild Corps with Steve Campbell. I think Steve's really
yeah,
great.
yeah,
Yeah, and then Daniel Wisniewski and Rebecca Woods just did First Fist. I think they're really great too. There's just so much talent. I like people that really get into the character though, and a little bit more than just casual reading. That's just
yeah.
that's my preference. But yeah, Parsnow, right?
Yeah.
Parsnow's amazing. There's so many good ones. And then Michael Kramer, right? He's like one of the classics because I fell in love with him and Brandon Sanderson,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I'm trying to remember which one did they do? The Michael Kramer. What book did he do?
Oh, Michael Kramer did Stormlight Archives, but he did 10,000 other books. You should know Michael Kramer. He's the one it's just an impossibly deep voice, and he does Dalinar Kholin in like Stormlight Archives, and well, he does all the male voices, but
I think I've done. I have a giant list of books, so I got to go through and like look through the names to kind of see what have I consumed. Because Audible, what they do is they do they get me, because what they'll do is like I'll finish a book series and they're like, hey, by the way, just to let you know, we got another book for you for free, and it opens me up to a new series of books, and
and
they'll
then
give me they'll give me like 1 or 2 of those books out of like an 8-book series, and then I'll just go down a tear. I'm like, what book series was that? Like I just like and because they realize as soon as one book finishes, they'll give me credits to another series, and then I'm off to the races, and then like 16 books later, it's a thing. Um, one thing I do want to talk about, I want to get back to this because I think this is important, and I think it's actually critical, and I want to look at this a little bit. You talk about having anxiety, but you still talk about being able to produce these works, right? Can you talk to me about how you manage your anxiety either on a daily basis or prepping before you got to do something that's simply intense? Because I think a lot of people want to they want to create, but they're crippled by this anxiety, right? This fear of the 1 star or whatever the thing might be. Can you talk to me just a little bit about how you manage that?
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to sound pretty silly and hippy dippy, but I write cultivation with meditation. But that's certainly part of my process. Mindfulness is like a new agey keyword, but it's a lot more than that. It just means paying attention to the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
When you're worrying and you're anxious, you're not there. So if you can be mindful, you're not anxious. You can't be mindful and anxious. Oh, unless you're being attacked. Because then you're like, oh shit, I'm in danger. That is a good time to be anxious. You need to be mindful of that fucking danger. But if I'm trying to write a book and I'm like worried about next year's launch or something, it's like, no, I can't do that. So I got to shut it down. I also do like certain hacks for like, if I don't start my work early in the morning, I usually can't get around to doing it because I won't prioritize it. And then, if going on lots of walks, self-care, exercise, those things are super key in just keeping you in the thing. But then I'm sorry that this last year, my big thing is just flipping it around. So I was putting career first, like production. I need to produce, and then afterward I can take care of myself. But no, I already burned out once. I can't do it. So I need to take care of myself so that I can produce longer because I enjoy it. So it's flipping the script entirely, and it's not easy, and I'm not great at it yet.
So then is that a step-by-step process of you wake out of bed, do some meditation / cultivation, raise up your XP on that a bit, and then you shift to book writing? Is that what you do? Or is like, what is that? Like, how can you talk to me just like the tactical, practical couple of steps in the morning and kind of set your...
Well, you got to get the 3 S's, there we go. Shit, shower, and shave, right? Once that's done, usually like a really short, quick walk or like sit-ups or push-ups, and then I'll make my coffee, sit down, and I'll start a sprint. So if I can do that, then I sort of trigger the brain to respond dopamine-wise to like successfully completing a sprint. So it's like,
when you say sprint, can you break that down a little bit for me when you say a sprint?
Most days, unless I'm really just feeling the story and I just want to go in organic, I'll put on a timer on Discord, and I'll do like a 5, 10, 15, or 20-minute sprint where I tell my brain, my critical brain, to shut the fuck up and sit down while I play. So free writing, sprinting doesn't mean I have to write as fast as physically possible. You can, but it's usually messy and you'll have to do a lot more cleanup. So I just write at normal speed, but I'm not allowed to stop and question everything. Yeah, you gotta just, and that's where I find flow. If you can't find flow, you usually can't produce. It's very difficult. So
Yeah. And then when you say on Discord, is it because you're live streaming your text view, or what is that? When you say Discord, what do you mean by that?
I'm not a master enough yet to be able to sprint and live stream.
Okay.
But there's like Sprinto is a cool channel you can put in Discord, and so like me and my other author buddies, I'm in Alabama with Grayson Sinclair, by the way. He writes LitRPG with me. But we'll get on my Discord and set a sprint together, and he's in Alabama and I'm in California, and we rock it.
Where you at in California?
I'm down in Long Beach, man.
You're in Long Beach?
Yeah, but right now I'm in Alabama, which is weird. Where are you at?
I'm in Orange County. I'm actually going to be moving to Long Beach in like 2 months. So
that's kind of uncanny, actually.
Yeah, I know. That's what he said. I was like, wait, because I'm so very international. That's why I'm like, what? Like, how close are you? Okay, cool. We'll get together, man. That'd be fun.
I'll buy you a beer.
Yeah,
it's the Long Beach Brewery.
Yeah, I know. I just went to that Stash Bar. I don't know if you've been to the Stash Bar in Long Beach. Little side dash. I'm a foodie. I don't know, like before foodie. Like that sounds so pretentious. I used to own a gourmet burger truck for a number of years, and so I was very deep into the burger space. So there's a place in Long Beach. Side tangent. We're gonna go back in this, but like I love Monte Cristos. Do you know what those are? Do you know Monte Cristos?
Yeah.
They do a Monte Cristo burger, a deep fried Monte Cristo burger with sweet chili oil, which is sweet and spicy.
Yeah.
Every time I take a bite, I can feel one artery close. Like I take a bite, pump my heart, take a bite, pump my heart.
Right.
But anyways, I went there. I was like, oh, this is too dangerous. But anyways, side to side tangent is my new favorite spot in Long Beach. But we'll talk about that later. Getting back into it though, bringing it back onto the wagon here and the tracks. You're talking about Sprinto. You're talking about Discord. You're talking about being able to get into the flow of things in the morning and then just block things out. So you don't have your phone with you. You don't have like a way to access the internet. You don't like accidentally kind of creep over and then start looking at all your reviews on Audible off to the side, or how do you manage the whole outside world creeping into your space?
Usually it does. With the Sprint on, okay, so I just finally broke down and got me some baller headphones like you got, and they're big and bulky, but they're really noise canceling. So if I'm doing a sprint, I'll do like ambient lo-fi, or like I like Asian trap music. It's pretty fun, but no vocals, and then so I can kind of ignore that. But my phone gets me, and reviews. If you guys want to become a writer, don't read your fucking reviews, man. Or you can have a friend read them to you.
Yeah. Well,
that's actually effective because they'll either get pissed and like react and support you emotionally, or they'll skip some of the nasty shit. You know?
That's a pretty good move. You've got a friend filter.
Yes. Or like to, you know.
I like that. The wife. So that's a good move. And then so you just kind of deal with it. That's a known issue, right? It's how to deal with the outside world creeping in on you as you get through it. But then if you can kind of hit some of those flows in the morning, it sets you off for the rest of the day.
Yeah, pretty much. And I was teasing you earlier about being neurodivergent. I don't know what your deal is, but I am. I just got diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, which is weird. But for me, managing distraction and like manifesting focus is an art. It's a fickle art, right? You just got to fucking do it though. Otherwise I don't get anything done. So, and then luckily there's hyper focus, which is when I'm in it, nothing exists.
Yeah.
And that's the drug. It's just about getting there.
Yeah. I have no idea if I am or I'm not. I know I'm slightly dyslexic I can tell by like some people have seen me and like, oh, I think you are. And so I've known those things. I don't know about the other stuff. All I know is I can get obsessive with like audiobooks and other things that I'm really, really, really into.
One of the main indicators. It's the hyper focus. Everything goes away, and you spend absurd amounts of time there, right?
Yes, I do.
You forget to eat, drink water, right?
It just everything just gets out of my way, and it's like this is it's like until it's gone, until I have to finish it. I don't know. So I'll look into it. I've heard the term. I just didn't know. I don't really know much about it. But
Yeah.
but that's. I mean, it can be a crutch or a superpower depending on how you wield the thing.
Exactly. But if you can manifest it into a superpower, you don't have to be that consistent, right? You don't have to be on every day.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can get your shit together 4 days a week, you're fine.
Yeah.
Call it professionalism, right?
So, I mean, what are some on that point? Like, how are some ways? What are some hacks? What are some things that you've seen on how to get your shit together, right? For people that can get distracted or any of those things, what advice would you give?
One of the biggest things I see is people are super good at justifying and making excuses, and I kind of get a little sick of it. So if like a new person, and I was recently, so there's no judgment. I'm not different. You're not different, right? But someone comes and says, "Hey, I want to be a writer," and I'm like, "Cool. So where's your book?" And they're like, "Well, I haven't quite started yet. I'm still world building." And I'm like, "How long have you been world building?" And they're like, 5 years. And I'm like, "So when are you going to start?" And they have 10 different reasons why they can't start. And so I'm like, "Well, you're not ready to write. Let me know when you start." You just have to fucking do it. You really do need to choose it aggressively. You need to assert it. And then afterward, if you're going to go through that thing where you're like, "Oh, am I really doing this?" And then fight yourself a bunch, but it's worth it. You just have to sort of grab it. And that's why I don't always think it's necessarily bad if you're not ready yet. I needed to kind of break down and get strong enough at the same time. And then I'm like, why the fuck am I not writing fantasy books? I love them so much. They're my favorite thing ever, right?
Yeah.
So I had to start.
I feel you on that one. I have a mutual friend of mine who we share our love of the LitRPGs, and he's like, "When are you gonna start writing your books?" I'm like, I'm good. I'm not gonna. I don't want to pick up that habit. I want other people to pick up that habit so I can consume. I want to be a lazy consumer in this industry. I do want to look at what you're talking about here, because you said you got to start. I got a couple questions around here, some kind of rapid fire, but bear with me. So how long did it take you to write your first book, from concept to out the door?
Probably 9 months, but I had I failed to keep going it for a while. So at least 4 months of pure writing.
Got it.
And it
So
was 120,000. So just an average size book.
Got it. And then from when you started, when did you start writing to now? How long has it been?
Well, novels, almost 3 years.
3 years. In 3 years, you've written 20 books?
Over, yeah.
That's insane. So in 3 years, you've written 20 books. The first one took 9 months. The first one took 9 months. And then 9 months after that. So in 2 years, just over 2 and something else years, you've done close to 19 other books.
Yeah. So my other pen name is Atlas Kane. And the books in that genre tend to be slightly shorter, but they're still averaged 80 to 100K. So on some months, I would write a book in 3 weeks at the peak of my speed. And then that wasn't sustainable. So I needed to slow down. So the last 6 months have been a lot slower, maybe the last 8 months. So I had like a crack out phase because it was really fun.
Yeah.
But I wrote several trilogies on that one. And the LitRPG does tend to go a little slower than the Harem Lit because the system is more chunky and the character is a little more robust. So I can't quite churn out as fast.
Could you say that again? You said the LitRPG goes quicker than the what?
Than the Harem Lit. Atlas Kane is a Harem Lit pen name.
Got it. When you say Harem Lit, can you describe that a little bit for me?
Okay. Yeah. Here come the wind stars. Harem Lit's an interesting genre that just basically, instead of reverse harem, which is super popular in paranormal romance for female audience, it caters more toward a male audience where it's MFF situations, MMF plus. And then the cool thing is there's like a broad range from like pure erotica. You're going to pick up the book and every other chapter is going to have sex in it, to just sort of like a slow paced slice of life romance with more than one partner. And I tend to be more toward, it's just a romance book. But yeah, it's fun. If you like
cool. I'll check it out. I mean, I haven't heard the term before. That I was just kind of like, I got the gist by just the way you said it, but I wanted to kind of understand it a little bit better.
That's interesting because it grew up with LitRPG. It's actually, people don't always, some people would want to kill me for saying that, but Dungeon Deposed by William Arond came out way back in the day with like some of the originals, like they were sister, and then the fans. There's a ton that are crossover fans.
Yeah,
and they're both gamelit. A lot of them are gamelit. So
that's cool. Okay, all right, we'll check it out. I'm not opposed to some interesting harem lit RPG. It sounds like anime fantasy kind of stuff.
it's very anime based. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so then just backing up, moving forward in the series of questions. First book, 9 months. Overall, 3 years to do 20 books. Your latest book, the First Fist that came out, how long did that take you to write?
And see, then now you're going to think I'm full of it because of the other books, but that one was really slow too. I actually had to stop and I wrote another smaller project in between because it's 215K and that's the longest book I've ever written. So it feels like I've stretched my mental rubber bands, and it was really stressful. I did not easily finish that book. 150 is comfortable for me.
Yeah.
200 was a stretch, but I just had to get better at outlining, even better.
It's a big ass book. Yeah, I was gonna say, how does that change? Like, so like, yeah, because you're, I mean, you're throwing around these numbers, 200K, words. You're talking about this, like the size of the books. I know that at about 27 hours was that book size. I look at it in terms of audible hours, just on the consumer side of things, right? Then what needs to change for a book so you talk about stretching your rubber band, you said getting better at outlines. How does your process change when it's a bigger book like that?
Yeah, well, this one was the longer projects I've had, and my first book, actually, I used the same thing. I used parts. Divided the book into 4 parts and created 4 small arcs, and then with one overarching arc theme. And for me, that it made it feel like I was just lying to myself. I'm not writing one book, I'm writing 4 small ones, and that was easy. It's just all about lying to yourself.
So you got. Yeah. I often with any project or business, I always think that you got to lie to yourself and say the tunnel's this deep, right? Yeah. And really the tunnel's massive, right?
Yeah.
And with that, are you using the hero's journey kind of arc format where the person leaves, they go through some special unknown area, threshold guardians, get some sort of magical powers, come back, return stronger, and then carry on to the next? That's a finite loops inside of this kind of infinite loop arc. Is that what you're talking about, or
not exactly? So the hero's journey arc is in every single story that's ever been written, pretty much, except for maybe special art projects. There's the seed of it, right? Yeah. So I don't specifically go to try that because I have a main character. He's gonna have a boon, and he's gonna get help along the way on his journey. It's already there, so it's fantasy. So I just try to come up with a more of an organic story that feels believable instead of cookie cutter, like what's next. But my arc is that there needs to be like the inciting incident, in my opinion, should be connected to the climax. So the shit that gets the book rolling should finish, at least partially, at the end. And that's your arc. Like, have you heard Vonnegut's story arc?
No, actually I haven't.
The story, here, I got in the screen. The story begins.
Yeah.
Things happen.
Yeah.
And then it ends. And it's a big fucking joke. But that's the point, is you can still do that. You're like, did you have an end? And you're like, ooh, I didn't really resolve anything. And you're like, you didn't finish your fucking book. Go back and write an ending. Right? Or like, oh, I just kind of rushed right into it. You didn't do a beginning? No, it doesn't really begin. It just goes. Like, there's just 3 parts.
That's rude. It feels unresolved, right? That tension. So with this, I don't know if we actually answered the question. I think you did, but maybe I skipped my mind. How long did it take you to write this last book again? It took.
I didn't answer. I think this one was about 4 months. I had to take a couple breaks. Usually I can probably finish that in 2.5 if I was like on point, but I don't know if I can do that. I'm about to start First Fist 2, and I'm planning a project in between. I'm going to write, send it to my beta readers, and at least spend a week outlining and doing something else to get my mind off of it.
Do you want to? Because I want to. Let's talk about this later one. You said that this one kind of got some really good reviews. There's some excitement around it. Can you just talk just a little bit about First Fist? Kind of what's it about? If you were to kind of talk to someone about it, if there was someone that's interested in LitRPG, how would you describe it to them? And how would what's about it? Do you think is what about it a lot of people enjoy?
Yeah, definitely. So from a LitRPG standpoint.
And I'm going to pull up the thing right now so you can take a look at it as anybody wants to take a look at the book right now. And you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So Seventh Bridge to the Heavens is access to this other world that's been previously locked off. So yeah, we need to get into the world building of that, but the little character there, Luca, was a soldier. He's an older protagonist, so he's about to turn 30, which for someone who's been a spear wielding soldier is the beginning of old man stage, because he's been injured a lot and he's a little bit broken. But then about at the third way through the book, he breaks through and gets some cool thing. He finds the seventh bridge to the heavens, so to speak, and then we get a secondary arc that sort of takes him to a more fantasy-based realm, and that's where we get cultivation and we get gamelit / lit RPG. For lit RPG fans, this is not a crunchy, heavy system. This is character focused, but there is visual stats, and the system does matter. It's not a broken thing. And for fantasy fans, that's what I wrote the book for, is just for that sense of wonder. And I didn't think we could fully get the sense of wonder unless we felt pain first. So the character doesn't have an easy beginning. And afterward, the heights are that much sweeter. So I think this is a good book for people who are okay with being honest with what pain is like, but love to feel hope after,
Yeah. It's not the start good, get great, and start in a shit situation and then figure out your stuff to go to some higher place.
Have you listened to Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson or read it?
Nope.
They're stellar. They're fantastic, and everyone loves them. But Kaladin Stormblessed had a different arc, of course, but Brandon dragged his character through the mud too, man. He actually a little bit more aggressive than me. He did it for a couple books. But yeah, it's fun to see someone rise up from the mud and then truly see them stand, right? That power. You're like,
I love it.
Hell yeah.
What's your I'm gonna toggle this off, so anybody feel free to take a screenshot of the book so you can see it. We're gonna talk in a minute about how to find this, but grab a screenshot if you see it. But the book is here, you can see it, so I'm sure you can find this places. We're gonna dive back into what that looks like. But I do want to say is what's your hope with making all these books? Like what is your holy grail? What is your flag in the sand? Like what do you hope to achieve by writing this book series or all these books? Do you have an end goal in mind or some sort of flag in the sand that you hope to achieve?
A lot of them. Like I'd love to be taught in a school or something, but that's kind of ridiculous. And then my dad keeps telling me, are they going to make a movie? And I'm like, that's not really how things work, Dad, at all. But I think having, I've been hungry for more contact with readers. And I know that some authors make it to a certain level that like their Discords or their Facebooks or whatever they are brimming. And what I mean by brimming is like 100 avid fans. 100 fans that believe in you is enough for any celebrity to really, and I don't really want the celebrity. I really want the connection with the readers. It's rich to hear what they think and to, have them name my characters if they want. I don't know, that sort of connection is really rich for me. And then to be able to look back when I die and go, at least I tried to do stuff that I wanted to do.
That's
awesome. The fear of the regret for not having tried, right?
An epic statement on Tombstone, you tried to do stuff, man. I mean, man, that's what's cool about it. And what I like about that too, but you're talking about having them like they care enough to actually want to name your characters. Like you've created such a powerful mental model narrative world for them that they feel sucked in it and they actually want to be able to be a part of that. Like that's really powerful. That's amazing. And 100 people, that's a lot of cats. That's a lot of people. And
it seems small, but like but what readers don't know is if 100 people read and reviewed your book on day one, in addition to the other people that like do it naturally, it's just, that's it. That's the spark you need for every bonfire.
Gangbusters. What do you think is the dragon that might prevent you from being able to achieve that? What's the biggest thing that you think is stopping you from getting the 100 fans or being able to create that powerful reader base?
It's just myself. That's it. That's the only thing anyone's ever facing. Usually, I mean, I'm lucky, like at this point, I can keep writing full time, and I have a good keyboard, So
Awesome.
that's in my favor. No, seriously, right? And some people are like, well, I'm working 2 jobs. How can I write full time? And I'm like, well, you fucking can't right now. So good luck crossing the river. It's very difficult.
Yeah, man. That's so true. And you're right. The time about the getting past your own stuff, because you're right. The 5 years world building, or people, you say something that really lands with me true. Is what I've noticed is that whenever you start a thing, you always feel like a fraud. Like there's this fraud aspect, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm a fraud, right? And then at some point, I think it does go away at some point down the river.
A little,
right? But I thought it was cool that you're like, oh, let's just do it anyways. And that's why I was like, how do you get past it? Like even this, I mean, truth be told, like you said, you had some anxiety before this podcast, right? Getting in, then we got comfortable. We had a chat. It was great. It's very natural. But having the honesty enough to just communicate where you're at, I feel there's a lot of power in that. And then coming forward and I'm very intrigued with people that can admit what's going on inside of them, whether it's fear, anxiety, worry, doubt, or whatever, and take that step forward.
Yeah.
And it's a really powerful combination. So that's what I'm really interested in understanding, like how
and today I got mad at myself because I said, you know what, I'd actually really like to fucking hang out with Dylan Watkins. He's a cool guy. Why pull your shit together? And so I did some breathing exercises, and I was like, yeah, Dylan, let's do this.
All right, brother.
Here, my heart's beating fast. Yeah, that's fine.
Let's go, buckle up, man. Yeah, that was a great conversation. I know you told me, like, I'm not ready. I'm like, that's cool. I'm like, we can still do it. I'm gonna show up if you're here. Let's get this party started, man. It's great, man. Like I mean, being able to create what you've created in the time that you created, in the time that you've done it, and put so much heart and feeling and thought and love and emotion into it. I mean, it's an accomplishment that most people, they just, they'll just sit there and consume. They'll do what I do in the book world, where they'll never produce, they'll only consume, and that to me is like, if anything, if inspiring people to read the books, right? You read enough of these books, you get inspired, and maybe along the path, those people turn into writers, or maybe they get inspired and they make a video game, or they get inspired, they do something, man. But that's why I think part of this book is one is talking about why these books are awesome. And a lot of it is also like you figuring out your own shit to be able to make stuff that's meaningful to you and other people. And I think it's a really cool thing. I mean, what?
I got something for that. Do you mind?
Yeah, please.
This is just an inspiration here. So you've asked for a couple hacks here, and this is the really shitty thing is there's only a single thing that you need to know in order to be a successful artist. Is you need to actually be able to at least temporarily love yourself, because the act of creation is allowing yourself to play, which is not something someone does if they love themselves. So you give yourself space to play, and then afterward you love yourself so much that you revise it and you attempt to fucking perfect it. That's the pursuit of art. You're not going to make it. And then the last thing is you have to love yourself enough to say it's okay if it's broken and not perfect. It's good enough, and I love it, and it's going to go out there. And that's brutal. But if you still can't like get your act together to write, then start working on self-compassion.
That's awesome, man. That's honestly that is a really, I've never heard it put that way, but you're talking about the ultimate hack is loving yourself enough to play with your art, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing is so many people are hard on ourselves. I mean, we're all hard on ourselves to the point where it's debilitating. That's really cool. It's a really cool point. TJ, it's been awesome. You have a new book out. It's kick-ass. It's it's doing really well. How do people find, I'm going to talk about back up right now. How do people find the First Fist book 1? Where is it? Can you let us know?
It's on It's on Amazon, ebook, paperback, and audio. There's actually 2 covers. The other one's a little bit more shown in height, but this is the ultimate series cover that we're going to be keeping around. So just check it out on Amazon, but I'm also on Facebook at TJ Reynolds author. You can see the little First Fist guy there as an icon on Facebook. And you can even drop by on the Discord or on Reddit. So just search First Fist and TJ Reynolds and you'll find me. I'd love to hear from anyone, even if it's beta readers or like, hey man, you could have done better on that one thing. And I'd be like, yeah, probably. Thank you. I'll take a note, So drop on by.
It's a great way to handle that. That's beautiful. TJ, absolute pleasure, man. It's been a real gem talking with you, man. So thank you so much for your time. Much appreciation, and I'll see you on the other side.
All right. Thank you so much, man. You have a good one.
You too, TJ. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes of Reality podcast. Check out heroesofreality.com for more episodes. While you're there, you can also take the Heroes quiz to find out what kind of hero you are. Or, if you have a great story and want to be on the podcast, tell us why your hero's journey will inspire others. Thank you for listening. See you